So we're talking about the Spokane wildfires, which you're familiar with. Tell me a little bit about how, it's the early days. People probably aren't thinking about filing insurance claims right now. They're just trying to survive. With that in mind, what are some things that people should be thinking about in these early days after an incident like this?
Well, so first thing is if everyone's safe and you can start thinking about these sort of things. I like to tell people to go ahead and start documenting everything. So go to the house if you can, if it's safe. Start taking pictures, record your home, and just kind of because those have timestamps on them. So that'll be really good evidence when you need to start preparing everything for your claim.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people, I think, are dealing with a lot of issues when it comes to insurance, especially because some of their literal insurance cards may be burned or their home computers where they stored their documents. If somebody's missing some of that critical information, but maybe they have a phone, what kind of advice would you give that person?
A lot of insurance carriers, your phone number will trigger your policy. So hopefully you can call and just start that process. If not, the insurance carrier should go ahead and be able to pull up your information over the phone, or if you want to contact your agent, they should be able to help you with that. And make it as easy as possible because you're already going through a traumatic event. You don't want to have to worry about, you don't have your proper paper document.
And you've worked closely with insurance companies for a long time now. I ultimately like to err on the side of I think people are good and want to help. What are some of the conversations going on in these insurance companies who are trying to get people the benefits they paid for?
I think that that's a really great question. I feel like that the adjusters really do want to help the homeowners. It's just that they have I mean, they're overwhelmed with claims. And so that the better prepared that the homeowner is, that they have all of their documentation just already ready, I think that the better the claim, the faster it's going to resolve as well. Because if you have everything ready and it makes it more seamless for the adjuster, they don't have to kind of recreate everything from scratch. And that's why if you go ahead and you document after the fact, your pictures, all of those things, start pulling those together because it might seem like that doesn't make a difference, but it really does help the process.
And we know FEMA is involved in this, and FEMA always says to file with your insurance first and then with FEMA. So, in general, you mentioned the photographs. What are some other common evidence that insurance needs in order to process a claim?
So a lot of the times, if you have any high value items, they will ask for any sort of receipts or appraisals. And so something like that would be jewelry or art, anything that kind of falls in that category. And hopefully you already have that on your homeowner's policy if it's over a certain value amount. But just going ahead and making sure that you have that information, or you can pull up just what it is now and go ahead and start doing that research of what the replacement cost is going to be.
Any big differences or concerns for renters insurance versus homeowners insurance that people should be aware of?
Well, and for renters, that their policy only covers the contents portion. And so they don't have to worry about the structure, but they do have to worry about the contents. And so hopefully they already have all that kind of in an inventory somewhere, or they had pictures of that. The same thing goes for homeowners. That part is kind of the same, but the difference for homeowners is they're going to have the contents in addition to the structure. So they kind of have double homework on that part.
Absolutely. So, I know that when these kinds of things happen, people tend to lose their patience.
Yes.
What is a realistic timeline? How long does this actually tend to take in corporate America?
Okay. Well, you're not going to like my answer. Honestly, a realistic timeline is like 18 to 24 months.
A long time for a family.
It is, and that's actually why I built my platform because if you don't understand that it takes this long, you don't know to plan for those sort of costs, and so sometimes you're in financial hardship because you didn't know, hey, I'm going to have to wait 18 months before the insurance company started to pay out for my claim, and that's just kind of that's not something that we plan for. I don't plan for that. I mean, and so it's just kind of already going ahead, knowing that ahead of time that way you can, like I said, document everything, but be patient with them because the adjuster is doing it. It's all part of a process. It's not really, they're not trying to make it take that long. It's just, that's just kind of what happens in these situations, especially when there's such a large affected area.
Absolutely. And again, we're talking about this and we know that very, very early days. Some people have literally like just lost their homes. We know that there's over 700 structures that have been destroyed. Um, how important is it, knowing that it could take 18 months, to file a claim quickly?
So within every policy, there's an agreement that you will notify them immediately within a certain time period. And so, hopefully that if you're safe and you're able to, you go ahead and notify them because you don't want to sort of cause any issues with the contract, the obligation for the insured at that point. So you do want to let them know as soon as possible.
Let's also talk about your platform for a little bit because I know that like one of your big goals, again, erring on the side of people want to help people.
Right.
Tell me about some of the resources that you're offering for those who are affected like by wildfires, like in Spokane.
Well, so I have a resource page that will kind of help you with what you should do. Documentation is on there. Then also a claims process. So if you don't know how to frame something, I've got a first notice of loss on the platform. So it's like a little wizard. It'll walk you through the platform. It will walk you through what to say, what not to say, because unfortunately there are words that or just little phrases that can make it a lot harder just at the beginning of the claim. And then it's just a resource center. So helping you, supporting you, and then also letting you know if you're not happy with the way that things are going, what avenues do I have from that? So it will help you escalate as well.
And tell me a little bit about, you said that there are unfortunately things that people trying their best let slip and it creates a problem later. Can you share a couple of those common phrases or traps that homeowners or renters may fall into?
Well, so one of the main ones, and it's not really applicable in this example, but one of the main ones is that, like, let's say a little piece of your toilet pops off and your house is covered in water. People will say, "My house flooded," and so if you tell the adjuster that, they say, "Well, you don't have flood coverage," and so that's just one of those things where just a simple phrase can kind of trigger a denial, as opposed to just having, the proper phrases. A little piece of my toilet came off, and my house is covered in water. Just something as simple as that.
Got it. All right. So I think those are pretty much all of my questions. I think for a lot of people, this is just their first time ever filing an insurance claim like this big. Do you have any
Right.
advice in general for just, the massive scope of this people have to think about?
It really is. So, when my advice is when you have a rebuild estimate that comes back, one, make sure that you go ahead and do your due diligence. So go ahead and get like two estimates to rebuild, so that you already have that in your back pocket. And then if your adjuster comes back with something that's low, it's okay. You can actually supplement to try to get it higher. And I always tell everyone, start with one thing at a time. I've noticed that adjusters don't do great with here's 10 things. Just start with the largest item, the ticket item, and then kind of go from there because that's kind of the process that works best for me in my practice. And I think that that's, going forward, but also know that you have different things you can do if you're not happy. If the adjuster's not working with you, you have things like you can go to the Department of the Insurance. You can find a lawyer, you can find a public adjuster. And so you kind of have those outlets for you where you do have those resources.